Welcome to Polished-ish. Polished-ish is where real stories meet real lessons. Hosts Ruma, Julianne, and Jerry share unfiltered conversations about failure, growth, and the messy beauty of life, proving that imperfection is where the magic happens. So pull up a chair, because life isn't polished, it's polished-ish. Welcome to Polished-ish, where life isn't polished and neither are we. Welcome
That's
back,
for sure.
everyone.
I'm so unpolished.
Hello,
I'm in
hello.
the car without the camera on.
Well, you're very polished. You are making the effort to do this session while you're driving. So drive safe out there, Julianne.
Yes, don't you
Focus on
worry.
the
No
road.
distraction. Yes, I am. I can talk and drive it. I can talk and do anything.
So in our pre-production meeting, it makes it sound like, we're so fancy. We discussed what topic we wanted to talk about today, and we kind of landed on like a movie or a show that's kind of had an impact on you and why, right? So I will open it up to you guys to start. Tell me about a movie or a show that's had an impact on you and why.
Sure, I can get started. There are so many shows and movies. The one that I go back to all the time that has made an impact is this movie called The Martian. I love Matt Damon. And also, the last scene of the movie really does crystallize everything that I believe in. Like he said, life is going to throw different problems at you, and you just have to get through one. And then once you solve that, then will have another one, and you solve that. And that's how, they asked him, how did he manage to come back from Mars back to Earth? And he said, well, I just solved the problem for that day, and then I survived, and then I fought the next one. And then once you've solved enough problems, then you find that you're successful. And I feel like, we have this, I have
like
this big
that.
plan.
Like one day
what
at
I
a
want to
time,
go,
one
but
problem
then
at a time. You just get through that.
get through that. And, and it's taking you in the same direction where you want to go, but also maybe in this direction that you're supposed to go, right? Because, God knows we may not land up in the same place where we had expected where we want to go. So solve that, right? Don't get frustrated and do your best and have fun doing it. And then I think, so Martian is my movie, which I think about all the time, and I really try to live that.
I love that too, because it's like you can only solve the problem in front of you. And the other thing we know is problems will wait, right? They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's a good one. Martian, book by Andy
Martian.
Weir. Andy Weir, like it's a good movie. I totally agree, Roma. I've seen it 2 or 3 times, and I've really enjoyed the whole aspect of how do you survive on Mars when someone's coming to get you in a couple years.
Goodness.
Yeah. So well done. I will say my show, and Ruma and I chatted about this too because it's one of her favorites, was Ted Lasso.
Oh,
My gosh. Ted Lasso, I can watch it over and over and over again. I cannot get enough of Ted Lasso. And I think what kind of impacted me about Ted Lasso was kind of his optimism, his positivity, his vulnerability, the way he builds relationships, the way he builds culture. Like all of those things were just kind of like, yes, I strive to be that. And so I watch it over and over again. It's funny. Every character has their own little nuances, and it's just fantastic. And I know you've seen it, Ruma. What would
My
you say?
God, I could totally nerd out on Ted Lasso. But there are, what I love is that everybody is human and nobody's perfect in that series, right? Like everybody and people are complex. And I love the positivity about the show. It's got this feel good one. And we could talk about like my favorite episode, which if I have to watch just one, I watch the Christmas episode.
Oh, it's a good one.
And where unexpectedly you see this person who's like bringing gifts and bringing joy to others, and also you show up, you see this family where it has opened its door to everybody and they're just having a great time. Being the person coming to a country where I'm an immigrant, I felt that. I felt that warmth. I felt people had opened their houses and their hearts to me, and that episode speaks to me. But there are so many things about Ted. Like, I wish everybody has a Ted Lasso in their life. And I want to be the Ted Lasso for somebody, right? Because it's just positive.
I've only seen like little clips of it. I haven't watched it, but you guys have sold me on it. But I saw this one where he's doing, I love this one about being underestimated and surprising people because they're having that dart board, right? Where they're
Yes.
playing darts. Wait, you talk
Yes.
about it, Jerry. I'm sure you know it better, but I've seen it and I love it because it's like, he just doesn't have any ego, any pompous, and the other guy is so ego driven. So you share it because it's so good.
Yeah, in that scene, the previous owner of the team is really kind of a cocky, arrogant bastard, and He's always kind of like jabbing Ted in a snotty little way. And they're playing darts and he challenges him. And he said, I remember because he said, oh, he's like throwing darts. And he's like, oh, I forgot I'm left handed. And so he switches to his left hand and just starts hitting bullseyes and 20s one after another. And I thought it was fantastic. It's fantastic. And he does say that. He's like, people have been underestimating me all my life. And you know what? I'm curious. I ask questions, and you were not curious. You would ask if I've ever played darts before, if I was right-handed or left-handed, right? So I loved it.
Yeah, I love that too. And you know what I'm kind of wondering, Jerry, just because how you spoke about it, I feel like there must be some management lessons in it, like in terms of, like you were saying, building culture and being vulnerable. And I mean, do you find that you can parlay this into work stuff?
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, he was a leader of a team, leader of men in this case. And he brought a lot of those styles and that are leadership that you should bring into your work also. The vulnerability piece, the building the culture piece, the believe in what you're doing piece allows people to take risks. So, yeah, Ruma.
No, I completely agree. There is, I think there are so many leadership qualities you can learn from this in terms of supporting your team, right? There are many different types of leadership styles. And this style is about believing in your team and really, giving them the chance to sort of grow, make mistakes and supporting them through that, right? And we use this in our house, like be a goldfish, right? This was probably not the best. Some things didn't go your way, but what are you going to do if you continue to think about and stay there? You cannot move forward. So be a goldfish, learn your lesson. Don't just sit there and stew and be sad because you're just holding yourself back, right?
Yeah, and he believes in people, right? I mean, look at the whole relationship he builds with Nate. Nate's the
Mhm.
kind of the groundskeeper of the stadium, and you have a play you want to run? Let's see it. Let's run that play. He's like, you want me to run the play? Yeah, go for it. Do it.
And talking about Nate, right? So when Nate moves to the other team, he does this press conference where he actually talks about Ted in a very negative way. When Ted does his press conference, people are expecting him to thrash Nate, but he doesn't do that. He actually says, Nate is a great guy. I'm so happy for him. And that takes the magnanimity, right? And that basically says, I am going to continue to be the person that I am. I am not going to be drawn into the puddle. And that really set the stage for Nate. Like he was shocked. He was sad about it. Like he actually really regretted it because Ted did not, he was actually told, do something about it. Ted is Ted, right? He
That
said,
is
Nate
good.
is a great guy.
I
Yeah, I
love that.
love that he didn't. Yeah, I love he didn't take the bait, right? And even
No.
in all his press conferences, he never would take the bait.
Okay, mine is an oldie but a goodie. I have so many that I love, but one movie that I've loved for so long is Shawshank Redemption, and it's Tim
Yeah.
Robbins, the main character, the guy that gets put in jail wrongly, and just how he faces that adversity and ultimately outsmarts everyone. He's got the long game,
Yep.
so he plays the long game, and he's not in for the short little stuff. You guys, you've seen that? It's such a great movie.
It really is. It really is. And you're right about the long game. I mean, he's dropping handfuls of dirt every day, out through his pants onto the yard because he's digging a hole out of his cell with a little tiny chisel hammer that's made for,
Yeah.
carving rocks.
Well, and
Patience.
also how he set up all the money, like so that then I didn't mean to interrupt, Ruma. The warden goes down. He sets up his friend with the money and the ticket under the tree, and so he just took his time, was conceived plan, and just did it. Much like what Ruma was saying, it's like solve one problem at a time. This is what I can do today. One handful of dirt.
That's it. I mean, Shawshank Redemption is a classic. And, I completely agree with you. And it shows you that once you have a vision, his thing was to get out of the jail. It takes patience, perseverance, and belief. It's like, I know that this is the right thing and I cannot get this done overnight, but I'm not going to give up. Right. And I think that is the difference sometimes between people who are successful and not as successful is how perseverant are you? How much do you believe in that? And how do you show up? How do you show up? Are you building others while you do it? Or are you putting people down?
Yeah. And there's that great scene where he's on the roof and they're tarring the roof and he almost gets thrown off the roof, but he offers up this tax advice to the head guard. And then so the head guard's like, oh, you can do that? And he's like, yes. And the head guard gets them a whole bucket of beers, and he said for, like, a moment there, they felt like men and free again, just drinking a beer on the roof.
So, funnily enough, years ago, I used to live in New York City in my 20s, and I was in an elevator. So, Tim Robbins is an ice hockey player, and Chelsea Piers in New York, I used to tutor private students there who were ice skaters. So, one day I was going to my lessons in the afternoon. I'm in the elevator. I push the button, I look, and it's me and Tim Robbins. I know, just the two of us. And I've met tons of people. I don't usually get starstruck. I lost myself. I was like, oh my gosh, Tim Robbins, Shawshank Redemption. That's my favorite movie. And this is like in the late 90s. So it was like a prescient movie at that time. Anyway, he was so gracious and so nice and flattered. And I was just like such a moron, but I will always remember that.
My God. Has this ever happened to you? You have you've gone in an elevator and run into somebody who is somebody very famous or important, and you are completely tongue-tied.
Yeah, I mean, I was in New York. I think New York, it happens quite a bit because they live in the neighborhoods and you'll see them in stores or walking on the street. But I remember getting on the subway in New York and Stanley Tucci was sitting across from me reading a script on the subway. Now, this was, God, 30 years ago. So he had actually a little bit of hair back then. He wasn't bald yet. Totally took me by surprise.
I mean,
So I
mostly
was
I feel like when I run into people like Dustin Hoffman or like Mandy Patinkin, like they're cool. You say hi. I wasn't ever pressed, but to Tim Robbins, I literally lost my mind. I really did. Sorry, Ruba, go ahead.
no, you're fine. I was actually going to share a work experience. So I was, everybody tells you you should have an elevator pitch about who you are, etc., because you just never know who you're going to run into. So sure enough, I'm going down the elevator, and the chief medical officer is in the same elevator as us. First, I'm like, oh my God, this person. And then you know what I tell him? I said, the weather is really good.
No.
Complete moron, right? I'm just like, and then I'm kicking myself like, I could have told him who I was. I could have told him what work I was doing. I could have told him I'm so excited. And then and he said, yeah, it's warming up. And then that was my big lesson to say, okay, well, next time, don't do that. Right. So I never can forget my elevator moment with the head of my group. And I basically said, how is the weather?
Well, but you know what I love is that we are human, and when you meet, I mean, there's that saying like, "Don't meet your idol." But I will say, from all my work when I was with Ted and stuff, like most of the people are so lovely and gracious and like not full of themselves. And I can only imagine that it does feel good for people to warm to you and recognize you and be, you know what I mean? I don't know.
So I completely agree. And but know what you want to say next time. That I loved your movie. I think that's great. And I think it's good for people to know what kind of impact they've had on you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Ted Lasso had a big impact on me.
Oh, you guys, I'm queuing that up right now. Like that.
I'm
Oh my
telling
God.
you,
You watch it and you get back to us and you,
put it on
if
the top of your list. I'm telling you, it is one of the most positive, content that I have seen. And I want to be better. I want to be a better person because I've watched that. I'm telling you.
I know
But
it's
he
just
does.
classic. Yeah.
But he doesn't have like an ego about it, right? He's not like, it's just who he is. He's not like trying to be something. It's just like he just has that. We've all met those people that just have that aura, right? And they
Yeah.
just uplift the people around them.
It's who he is.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, I'm
And
watching. It's on my list.
everybody tries to bring him down constantly and he just doesn't take the bait.
He doesn't take the bait and he doesn't stop being who he is.
Especially in our current time, right? Where it's they go low, we go high, and now suddenly it's like they go low and we go lower. I think I'm not sure, but there's definitely a kernel of truth in there for everyone. Stay the course.
Yeah.
Stay the course, people. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
There's that great quote. I mean, you remember Trent Grimm, the Independent,
Mhm.
right? The one reporter that writes the story about him. And I thought it was interesting because they go to eat the Indian food and it's so hot, he still eats it because he doesn't want the guy to be embarrassed in front of his dad.
Yeah.
And the guy writes that whole story and he's like, I'm sure he will fail, but I will get no pleasure out of it.
No, absolutely. People like sometimes there's a lot of weight given to being honest and upfront and telling them like, I'm just going to tell you how it is, right? There's a lot of weight that's given to that. I think sometimes we have to think about like, how will that make the other person feel?
Yeah.
right? What can I do to still give that same feedback, but in a way that's not going to put them down, but actually build them up?
Yeah.
And I think these are all, it's just so classic. There's so many. We could probably talk a lot about that, so many things in that. Nobody is perfect. That's what I love about it, is that everybody has their own fallacies, but together they are there to support each other. There's a positive thing, and you know, how often do we have that?
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good point. And I mean, it's funny because I feel like I love uplifting content. You know what I mean? Like just
Mhm.
where you leave, it makes you feel like you can do and be better. And then when you are, you can help others do the same.
Yeah, exactly. So agree. So we should talk about Ted Lasso part 2 once you have watched it.
Yes, we
But I
will.
think we could cover another episode on it. But I think if something to take from this episode is be the person who you want others to be for you. We want others to be good to us. We want others to help us. So maybe we can start by being that person.
Yeah, so it's been a great conversation. Thanks for sharing your stories of, like, the movies and shows that you really like and how they made an impact on you. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you all.
Take care, everybody.
Well, until next time.
Happy Sunday.